Hey cats, it's shoe time. Eddbud here. Today I have a 100-mile review for you of the Adidas Primex 2 Strung. Hey cats, I've hit 100 miles or about 160 kilometers in the Adidas Primex 2 Strung. I'm here to give you my thoughts and opinions. This is a shoe that I picked up earlier in 2023. I think it was around about September, so it's not taken me a hugely long time to get to that 100-mile milestone. How's it held up during half marathon training and those sort of daily outings? Can I recommend this shoe to you? Let's take a closer look. This 50mm beast is one I picked up with my own earth credits. It's not a shoe that's been sent to me for review. I've got about 55mm of stack height here. It truly is monstrous. We'll kick off the review with the upper first. Before we get into the review, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Danke schön. I still have some reservations about the fit of the Primex 2 Strung. The material in the toe box here doesn't feel anywhere near as well sort of crafted in terms of the actual amount of material that you've got there. I've got a lot of bunching around the toe box area. I feel like I've got to cinch the laces in a huge amount to be able to get a good fit this time around. The V1 of this shoe was a fantastic upper triumph, I suppose. I just get lots of bunching over the top of the foot. I'd say it's not overtly kind of uncomfortable or anything. You can't really feel it all that much, but it does mean you've got to get your sock selection on point when using this shoe. I can't say that the upper fit is as dialed in as the V1 or like the V1 Strung, and in fact I could see some people with a very wide foot having some issues with this shoe in getting it on foot even. The materials don't stretch all that much like you get in the Alphafly 2, and it does feel like the Primex 2 is relying on the upper to kind of hold your foot down on top of the midsole base rather than the laces having all that much effect. I had a lot of lace pressure here around the sort of last eyelets of the shoe, and overall everything feels just a little bit off here. It just feels a bit rushed. I would even suggest buying yourself a shoe horn if you're going to use this shoe. Just going to make it a little bit easier to get on foot. It certainly isn't going to be a great shoe for people to use if they're doing a triathlon, and if you have a narrow foot, I'd just avoid it probably. One good point about the upper is it's relatively easy to keep it clean. You can brush mud off of here once it's sort of dried up a little. Doesn't hold on to the upper, and it's reasonably easy to sort of keep it looking decent. Though remember, this is a running shoe. That's what it's designed for, to take a bit of a beating. So sadly, with the weird build-up of excess materials here in the upper, that extra lace pressure brought on by the very strange design, it just doesn't work as well as the last version of the shoe, which means it's a 2.3 out of 3 for the upper after 100 miles from me. It just doesn't lock the foot in place that well. Midsole now. Now the midsole here has flexed a little bit over the 100 miles. I feel it's sort of tenderized now. It does feel a little bit more cushioned than it did out the box. Lightstrike Pro always starts off that way. It's a little bit firm and you're thinking, really? But then it takes on a slightly different feel as you put more miles into it. That's exactly what we've got here. It's a much more stable shoe than the previous versions of the Primex, but it's in no way as exhilarating or as fun to run in this time round. There's still some good return from the front section of the shoe, which features some other types of foam sandwiched between the two slabs of Lightstrike Pro. And of course we have those two plates here that adjoin in this sort of area that sandwich that sort of softer foam here at the front. It's a nice feeling shoe to run in, that's for sure, but I cannot say that it has the awesome versatility as the previous version. Feels good to me at around about 8 minutes per mile pace, sort of like steady, easy pace I suppose, but anything faster and I soon start to actually wish the shoe was less heavy in terms of the weight. It's quite a considerable increase from the first version, and you do start to feel it on those longer runs, I have to say. I guess you can't have the extra width here in the heel and improve the stability without those original rods that we had in the first version. If I had to say which one that I preferred over the two, hands down it's got to be the Primex Strung. It's just better in all departments, and especially the midsole. It's just way more fun to run in that shoe. This one's like a iteration of it, but it feels just way more conservative, and I just don't feel as if I'm getting the best out of that sort of two-part plate setup that we've got in the shoe. The rods felt just as stable up front, and with all the extra weight that we've got from the added tech in the shoe, it just feels like more weight, less benefit. I had to use a flat spatula to actually get a lot of mud and grit and grime out of this kind of cutaway here. It really does build up over time. I was doing that sort of every 20 miles or so. Heaven knows what it'd be like now. If I hadn't done that at 100 miles, it would have just been full of horrid stuff. I'm really not a big fan of this cutout area here in the shoe. It's probably the worst bit of it, really. It's clearly to show off the tech, maybe to increase the flexibility of the shoe. So why add flexibility of the plate that isn't overtly present, yet create this issue here where you're going to get loads of debris in there. Not the fun ride we had in the V1. Over longer distances, I could really feel that weight of the extra stuff. It feels quite bottom heavy, I suppose. And I feel the culprit for all of that is the added extra tech that we've got here. Just doesn't make for a better shoe. A 2.5 out of 3 for the midsole after 100 miles, sadly. Outsole now. Probably the best bit of the shoe, really. It stood the test of time very well. The rubber has some lovely pitted nature to it, and the only areas which have smoothed off at all are in the lateral side of the heel right here and around about this sort of forefoot area. The rubber's very soft, it's very malleable, but for some reason it never seems to wear down. Works really well on road and pavements. I guess that's its intended use case, really. And it remains one of the best outsole rubbers for sort of wet and dry conditions on those types of terrain. Absolutely not my choice for wet, soggy paths. If you've got any leaves there, be a little bit careful. There's simply other shoes out there which have much better technologies and sort of outsole grip there and traction that you can use for that type of stuff. Plus the fact with all this extra stack, I'm not sure you're really sliding around. That plastic section that we have here on the medial side of the outsole does seem to adhere that rubber better to the outsole. The plastic just seems to create a much better sort of base for that rubber to grip to rather than the Light Strike Pro foam. So I guess that's adding a little bit of weight, but at least in this situation it's actually improving the actual durability of the shoe. It's improving it rather than taking away. Absolutely the best part of the shoe, I think, this time round from the Primex. I do miss the ridges that we had a little bit in the forefoot area of the Primex Strung. It just made it a little bit more versatile. That had an absolutely fantastic outsole. Really not a fan of this cutaway, which is why I've taken off a couple of decimal points. I got a lot of debris built up in here and it's very difficult to clean. Does make you wonder a little bit why the hole in the carbon plate, maybe you can see it there, it's not the same size as the hole that we have in the midsole. Either way, grip's still fantastic. I'm going to give this a 2.8 out of 3 for the outsole after 100 miles. At 100 miles, we're now talking value. I'm actually quite impressed by the build quality here and the durability in the Primex 2 Strung, but it's serious money at retail. 250 Earth credits here in the UK is eye-watering, especially around this time of year when people are short on cash. And when you consider that the original version and the Strung version of the original is available on discount now, some really deep discounts too. From my perspective, in pretty much every way, that shoe is a better one. This is a great cushioned shoe, I have to say, but at 250 quid, no. We got extra weight here, a poor upper fit, overly generous material here. I don't know why they've decided to do that. It's a more rigid midsole feel underfoot, but of course you got the debris inlets as well. It's just an inferior version of the Primex, and I can't recommend this as a vital pickup this time around. If you can find a discounted version of the original or the Strung version, I would go for that over this shoe. I've already detected some quite deep discounts on this one. Clearly people aren't leaping over each other to grab them. They're not flying off the shelves. It's not some mad like Black Friday rush or something where people are banging at the doors, you know, to pick this shoe up, and I think that's justified, really. I'll give it a 2.3 out of 3 for value. It's a great cushion cruiser, but at the price point it's just totally wacky. I mean, I've enjoyed most of my miles in this shoe so far. Will I be persisting with it? Probably not. If I've totaled the scores up correctly, that gives us 9.9 out of 12 after 100 miles for the Adidas Primex 2 Strung. so didn't really win me over all that much. I knew its shortcomings right from the off, and I was proven right really after 100 miles. Have you picked this shoe up? Is it one that you have in the rotation, or are you using its predecessor? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Musical interlude time. I love my Christmas music. I've got playlists of all sorts of different types of Christmas music. Any excuse and it's on straight away. One that's grown on me though over the years, you know, since I was a wee nipper recording tunes off of the Radio 1 or something. As I've sort of got older, I've become to appreciate the song, and that's by Greg Lake, I Believe in Father Christmas. And of course I still do. I send the letters, and I also hear the bell as well. Those that know will know. I love the acoustic guitar intro on this one. There's lashings of reverb on there. Beautiful, chimey, woody sounds of Greg's acoustic. I hope it was him. I assume it was. Actually, I like the production on this one in terms of all of it. The fantastic vocals there. There's choirs, strings. We've got some woodwind as well. In fact, the whole band sound like they're in some sort of like reverb chamber. It just adds the Christmas magic. Interesting cover to this one as well. It does appear that Greg Lake had just gone down to the beach or something. I can imagine him sort of standing on West Bay. Maybe not West Bay, because I think that's made of like pebbles. But yeah, maybe he went down to Weymouth or something. Or Margate even. And took his guitar and they took a few pictures. If anybody knows, you know, let me know. The crescendo at the end of this song is quite awesome, actually. It just builds up and builds up. It is one of those that gives you a real sort of feeling of Christmas joy, the giving of presents, you know, especially big boxes of After 8 dinner mints. Greg Lake, I Believe in Father Christmas. And you should too. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, but also give this video a thumbs up like. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you